It is 8:12. Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards. We are in the Sports Interaction Power Hour, which means the appearance of the Bet Brothers. That's right, the Bet Brothers. And the first one at 6'5", weighing 172 pounds. The killer from Clarkson. No, it's not Clarkson. No, it wasn't Clarkson. It's
No.
He's a Derby. He's a
Streetsville.
Streetsville. Steeler. Phill Gray. And so we've got, boy, you know what? We're sneaking into some action all of a sudden, right? It's kind of seeping in, and I see that now that other leagues are sort of looking over their shoulders, looking at other leagues. Now you find things like Superdome now announcing that they could get maybe like 12,000 people or 3,000 people in their stadium. The state of Texas now saying, well, we are now going to allow people to go into open air stadiums. They're fudging around with numbers and formulas, but it is just seeping back into the collective, at least into the sports world, that they're even entertaining fans. So in your world, which doesn't have to do with whether there's people there or not, what does this conversation, what has it meant in your industry? As I said, you talk to people around the world every day. What is the take currently as we talk here on Friday?
Well, yeah. Isn't it fascinating that yesterday the English Premier League, they had their meeting, their Zoom meeting, I would presume, and came to an agreement in GMT hours early in the afternoon, which was morning here, and by lunchtime we had odds for the first weekend of the EPL. Isn't that awesome? And as well as with the NHL, as soon as they came to their agreement, there's already series prices out. There's game prices out. There's some discrepancy on the game prices. They should be up soon, but the series prices are up for the NHL for the play and for the round robin. So, yeah, what a fast comeback! And I think that could be the order of the day. As you say, Mike, it'll be a seeping, a gradual return. Do we get into to the larger question? To begin the larger question and say, is society just going to say, well, you know what, you get it, and you die. The rest of us are all right, and sports world moves on. I mean, kind of a stark outlook, but I can see that happening. Yeah.
Mike and I were talking about this the other day, Phil, when Gary Bettman comes out, announces the format, announces kind of all the different phases. And I swear, within seconds, Sports Interaction had series odds, and we're like, "Holy crap, this is fast!"
Yeah, we were on it because for us, that's going to be a huge late summer take. I mean, regardless of whether there's fans in the seats, doesn't really matter to me as a bookmaker. People will watch and people will bet, and they will bet, and the in-play will be huge, especially on hockey. Our NHL in-play the last couple of years is growing exponentially. People love to bet in-play because we have it all. Team to score next. It's quite an offering, and it's the future of the industry. So for us, I still though, I remain a skeptic. That's fine and dandy. You've come to a nice agreement with the players and the league, but let's see you implement it. That's going to be obviously the crunch, right?
Well, and you mentioned for this, as I'm calling it, the Summer Hub Tournament, when this gets going, you have to realize that because of the uncertainty of how these guys have, they've been off for 3 months. Okay, I get it. They're going to be back for 2-3 weeks training and whatever it is. That you can't tell me that you have a great feeling. Game number one between, okay, let's say the Leafs and the Columbus Blue Jackets. You are crazy, at least in my view, to take a pre-game bet. I'm going to sit back and wait for that puck to drop and go in and play. It's made for in-play, isn't it?
Bet the dogs till the cows come home. That's going to be the order of the day.
Absolutely.
That is going to be the major task for bookmakers, especially in parlays. If you load up on 3 or 4 in the same day of dogs and they all hit, we get absolutely smashed. So as I was saying last week on another show, I believe heading into these neutral site venues and hub stuff and that, we've seen it already in the Bundesliga. The books have taken a little bit of a hit on it. There's some overvalue on the home faves, and some of the more experienced punters read into that, and they also get it on in play as well. And there's some prices out there that we're still trying to figure it out. So I would say for sure, heading into all the leagues restarting, the advantage will be to the better.
Phil, what can you tell me about the UFC card tomorrow? They have another fight night scheduled, this time in Las Vegas. There's a pretty decent main event. How are the numbers coming in for this one so far?
Pretty interesting, actually. I mean, it's a lot of heavy action on the faves in this one. The one fight I'm really going to be watching is the Jamahal Hill fight, where he opened at -175, and right now he's down to -120 in shots, which is a big move for a fave. Not so much for a dog, but for a fave. That's a big move. So a lot of people on a brew in that fight. It'll be a big night for us. I'm really looking forward to next week when Felicia Spencer and Amanda Nunes get together. It's going to be a huge price on Felicia Spencer there. I mean, we all know about Amanda Nunes, and she's fantastic to watch. But you never know with again with these kind of venues and these kind of fights, could there be a big upset there? And if she's paying like 350, 4-1, that could be a big payday on a dog.
Well, and again, when you take a look at circumstance, there's a reason why people would go, well, if I'm going to take a chance on a dog, this is the time to do it, because things are not equal. These are not normal times, and therefore, I mean, I think what was the Gaethje fight probably was the first one I'm thinking of. Gaethje was to me, when I looked at the numbers,
yeah.
Why wouldn't you take the dog, Phil?
Yeah, he's a killer. What that guy's he was Conor McGregor. Sorry, wouldn't even be close if they had a fight. But I mean, you go back to sports betting, and generally the rule of sports betting is bet the dog. I mean, there's no value in the fave, unless it was Floyd McGregor versus Conor McGregor, then absolutely there was value in the fave. But that's a once-off. So you always look for value in a dog, absolutely, and that's where you see professional sports bettors make their money when they're playing plus ev. They don't make their money when they're betting underneath the dollar.
Let me ask you a question, because I know I've gotten these questions before, and it's almost a betting 101 scenario. You mentioned that the favorite in the fight opened at -175 and it moved to a -123. What does that mean? What is the reason it has happened in betting terms, just so the education of the public is coming through?
Well, I mean, in UFC, I don't know that you could say, as some of the Vegas guys like to say it's professional money. It was more, I think, a combination of professional and public money. There's a lot of people out there that study the UFC very closely, and they know, a lot of the scenarios better and possible scenarios than some of the books. The books kind of, it's very tough to get a power ranking, get a line on a UFC fight. There's so many considerations. So you have a lot of bettors that are sitting out there, and they really analyze the UFC. And so somebody really likes, a number of people for the line to move that much. A number of people really like Klitz and Abreu to take that fight, and he's still plus money.
We're in conversation with Phill Gray from Sports Interaction here on Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards, and you just mentioned Premiership plans to return June the 17th. That is huge news, and you see Serie A also set to resume on June the 20th. I mean, these are big, fat, huge leagues that get a lot of action. I bet on both of them. In fact, this weekend I know I'm going to be on the Bundesliga. I've kind of waited for some of the games to sort of even out, because I definitely don't have a feel for what happened in the first couple of weeks, because it's too bizarre. But there's no question that where we see sports going, this is until we see a second spike or whatever. You had mentioned it off the top. If you think that there's this feeling towards humanity, whether it's safe or not, or whether certain people would be in jeopardy, that as much as they pretend it's of consequence, you have to, when they start talking about putting 20, 30, 50,000 people in the stadium, that has to do with the dollars, my friends, not whether it's going to be safe or not. So I'd have to think, as we look at where this is going, if you're in the NCAA, if you're, obviously the NFL, which has been very, very quiet, they only go about their business and only talk about the business. For you, Phil, taking a look at what could potentially happen for the NFL and NCAA, have you changed your mind, certainly on NCAA where you thought it may not happen? Have you changed your mind at all on that front?
I think both leagues are going to happen. As I said before, they're going to happen in some form. I don't think we're going to see, the normalcy of regular 16-game season and the regular NCAA season with all the divisions and all the conferences going.
Well, Major League Baseball's obviously. I thought they would be. You know what I thought they would.
Big money problem there, Mike.
It's a disaster. Like I think it's a bona fide disaster. Where I thought,
Justin Verlander was already pissed off. He was getting $30 million a year, $35 million a year. Now you're going to tell him he's going to only get 10.
Yeah, the numbers on both sides, and then you got a guy like Scott Boras who doesn't help anybody except himself. He's talking about what the owners make. Do you realize he was responsible for $1.2 billion in contracts, and he keeps talking about how rich the owners are? Like it's a joke if you just look at. I mean, he is. He has 70 some odd players under contract or whatever it is. He is an owner. He's an owner of human beings.
He's not getting less than 10%.
No. He's a slave trader. That's what he is. And he's making all his money telling people how to run their lives. But the reality is this is where we get back to where we were before the pandemic, which is greed is good. Money is king. And the fact that they can't get it together to just find some reasonable number between the two, and they're so far off. You had said beforehand, I think on the book originally, you had a July 1st start, and you took it off almost immediately. And I think you went to August 1st. Do you even have that on the board anymore?
No, I mean, that's out of all of them, alongside the NCAA, I would say the MLB is the biggest question mark at this point. The NHL will, if they can find a place, they do have a plan now, but they have to find a place to do it. The NBA looking, I think, probably the most solid to do that hub thing. I think Orlando is looking very good. That looks very good. NFL, maybe a slight delay. I don't think there's going to be any fans. Might be 2 weeks late. NCAA, we may see some sort of hybrid with some of the major schools and some of the different conferences where they're going to do alumni type games, or they'll come up with some sort of play-in to determine some sort of champion somewhere. You won't see 100 NCAA games on a Saturday. I will guarantee you that. Basketball as well. There's no way you're going to.
Hey, if Larry Bird says it, it's going to come through. I trust the
A white man can jump. Right? I can jump.
Okay, Phil. Let's not lose our heads here. Let's try to keep it real. Let's come on, everyone. Everyone, let's just slow down here.
I can make the Olympic team. Nobody else wants to play one, right?
That's right. Phil, thanks so much for this morning. Always a pleasure, my friend. You stay safe, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Fantastic, guys. See you next week.
That is Phill Gray.